Welcome. This is our second installation of Money Talks. I'm Natalie Levy, the founder of She's Independent. Really excited to be here. We also have Marissa Fay listening in. She may contribute as well. She is on the health and wellness side. There we go. Hi, Marissa. And we're really excited, today to talk about this topic. First, I wanted to announce we've recently rolled out a monthly focus. So this month, we are focusing on confidence. And it's a topic and a fundamental area that we're really excited about. Next week's mindset workshop with Marissa will also focus on it. And we will do an outdoor adventure in the Colorado area and then an upcoming virtual paint night where, again, you'll see this, recurring theme. And why do we care about confidence? I'll get into that in just a minute, but just quickly, a little bit of background on me. I have an engineering and math background and found myself trading derivatives on Wall Street from a young age, and in many ways did not show up as myself for years. I wore literally pants every day to work, battled hard to show all of these men that I was really excited to invest in my professional career. But what that ultimately did was made for a very unhappy situation and not a great working environment. So, my professional and personal journey has been one that has allowed me to get to a really great place of, feeling healthy and fulfilled and excited, to invest in these skills where basically I have found out who I am authentically and how to, show up in various areas of my life. So that's a little bit of my background. I want to chat a little bit about, confidence and why it's such an important topic. And if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to chime in and or, say something in the chat. But the thing I want to, kind of allude to or talk about first is a lot of workshopping focused on younger women today is pretty focused on finances. It's pretty focused on just professional development. And in truth, if you take a step back and you say, well, how do I, be successful in a professional environment? How do I use my voice? How do I ask for things? How do I level up my salary? What if I get all this money? That's not going to be happiness and fulfillment. Confidence and alignment and understanding, what we want and how to show up and feel good about who we are in a professional setting are some really fundamental skills that are very important to invest in. So we very much will talk about personal finance. We will talk about money. We will talk about, business and professional development. But, this topic of confidence and how to establish this mindset around our professional confidence is something that is, really an exciting and important area. So that's why we're talking about it today. And, if you have any thoughts or questions you want to add there, again, feel free to chime in. So first, let's talk about awareness. Awareness is something that I do hope that you all are kind of working on, or, we all are probably in a different area of our journey, but understanding and, taking a step back and seeing how we show up in a professional environment or even outside of the office, it's really important. And it's not something that you can workshop in one day. I mean, this is an area that you're probably going to have to invest in for years. But the topics and kind of planting these seeds of, well, how do I show up and how do I generate this awareness are really, really critical areas and really great things to invest in. What do you want? So if I was going to coach you, or if you're going to get coached in some area, you don't want to just go into, well, how do I maximize wealth? It's, well, why are you trying to maximize wealth? Peeling back the layers of that onion. I did coaching with one of our She's Independent community members, and, it ended up being she wanted a higher salary. But when we really dug into it, it was that she wanted to feel better about the way people looked at her. And the way she wanted people to respect her in the workplace. She wanted to establish a voice that she didn't have. So this journey, we did get her a very hefty pay raise, but That's not what it was about. And the skills that she learned around developing the awareness and then navigating that path of, call it obstacles or call it, how do you start to level up and feel good enough so that when you're in that room, you can deliver with confidence and authority. I mean, that's really what she was excited about, even though she had a pay raise in the process. Also, when we're talking about awareness, another, critical topic is not just understanding how we show up, but then it's saying, okay, where should we invest? And on the topic of where we're investing, it is so easy to do the things that we're good at. And I will say that again. It is so easy. And a lot of times we are pulled into doing the things that we already know how to do. So I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to say, in the name of balance and being confident in various areas, when I ask you, where do you want to invest? I would say, let's not gloss over and let's not just do the easy stuff. I mean, truly, what are things that we can up level, right? Where do you really need the work? And what are areas you really don't feel confident in today? And those are the areas that we're going to want to invest in. A few thoughts or, just a few things to mention there. Presentations. Maybe it's Zoom, as we're doing today, or maybe it's in person. There are many different skills and techniques that we could talk through. And today's not going to be so much about how do we get you from, A to Z, but I think we're introducing some of these concepts. But just to give you kind of a little idea, because there's so many ways that we can work with you regarding presentations or, establishing confidence when you are delivering a presentation. Practice mapping out, what are the points you want to talk about. Speaking up in meetings, having, again, those points that you may want to present on or, you have questions around. Another piece to awareness that I want to bring up, and we at She's Independent have received a number of inquiries over the last several weeks, specifically on this topic, is how do you feel in your work environment today? And this is something that is critical, that you feel healthy and that you feel good. I'm not saying that you show up to work and you're, excited every day and, it's called work for a reason. But if you're feeling that it's toxic or hostile, or you're not getting mentorship or support that you need, you're not feeling growth in a role, I mean, it might be time to move on. So again, awareness and really investing in and taking a step back, these are really important things to, start thinking about. Let's see, my Zoom just paused for a second. Oops. Okay. So this is a picture of me in a dress. Right now I'm wearing a sweatshirt, but I think the concept of authenticity and showing up and feeling confident in what you're projecting and how you come across and aligning yourself, whether it's in your professional life or in your personal life, authenticity is something you hear a ton about. What does it mean? Here's a picture of me, wearing a dress. I had mentioned to some of you, I, used to show up on Wall Street wearing pants every day for my first few years until I felt more confident in who I was and what I brought to the table. But authenticity is something that I think you also want to factor in here. It's how do you show up feeling really good and also feeling like you? Because if you don't, again, it's, stress, you're not going to be able to deliver, you're not going to be able to deliver those, kind of meet the expectation or exceed the expectation of who you are and what you want. Authenticity is essentially understanding how you want to behave and being yourself. And this ultimately is kind of what I would define fulfillment and happiness and success to be. So listen, I've had a number of career changes and transitions, oftentimes to make less money that ultimately aligns to make more money and, be a lot more fulfilled. And it's not easy, but I'm kind of challenging you and saying, these are concepts that if you really want to feel good about what you're doing in your career, if you really want to be successful, these types of investments are extremely important. So today is a little bit more of a conversation than, kind of a strict workshop. I do want to go through one exercise with you, which is having you close your eyes, taking a minute where I want you to breathe, and take time to ask yourself, given what we just spoke about, What do you want to change? What in your, professional life or in how you show up isn't feeling great? Where do you want to invest? And I challenge you again to think about not the first thing that comes to your mind, but really dig in and ask yourself, what do you want to work on and what doesn't come easy to you? What do you want to level up and where do you know that you can, succeed? It could be as simple as a task at work today. It could be you, figuring out how do you feel more aligned or, find more fulfillment in your current job or in your next job. But it's really taking the time to ask yourself and to step back to do this exercise and to take the time so that you can actually be intentional with where you're investing. So I'm going to have you sit with that for a little bit longer. Let's have you open your eyes. You don't need to turn on your video. You're welcome to. You're also welcome to share in the chat, but I'd love to hear, what did you come up with in that short time to yourself?
I can start.
Sure.
Can you hear okay?
Yeah.
So I think the first thing that came to mind was making more money, which is kind of an easy thing. But I think really I want to find a job that I'm really aligned with in terms of its mission. Like I feel like I'm really helping people and like to have some direct contact with people. Because right now my job is, I do think it's helpful, but it's so far separated from the people that I'm actually helping for most of the time. So I think that's something that matters to me.
Great. And then I'd want to dig into both of those points. I would say, on one hand, why are you looking for more money? Is that because you want to feel better about the way that you think they're kind of respecting you, or basically you just saying, hey, I'm successful in this role?
Yeah, I think it's more just to have afford a lifestyle that I really like. I have all the things that I want. And I don't feel like I'm strapped for cash.
Great. And
Yeah.
then to the point of alignment, have you started doing that, kind of asking yourself and going through the questions of, well, what would make you fulfilled professionally, and whether it's an industry or a different role, or having, being closer to, as you said, kind of that, whether it's the client or the customer or like the value that you're bringing. Have you done any ideation on that?
Not a whole lot, but I mean, just in applying for other jobs, I've definitely like sought out jobs that I feel are more in line.
Okay.
Yeah. And then at work, like I do find like I've done some workshops and I found that to be more rewarding. So even just like within my current role, I could seek out more opportunities like that.
Yeah. And then I guess within the current role, because if you do move on to another job, granted, in some states it's illegal for them to ask what you're currently paying or what you're currently making, but have you thought about trying to level up your salary or your compensation in the current role before you leave?
And I've kind of gone through, I've tried to ask for raises and then I've gotten to a point where I'm like, oh, okay, well, I already asked, so I'm good. You know, I feel like it's hard for me to ask every year, or I get in my mind about that.
Yeah, I would say that's something I would love to, kind of work with you on. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, I think that asking every year, especially when you're demonstrating excellence and when you're, contributing, you should be getting paid more every year. And
Mhm.
I would say you're kind of in an optimal position to really push the envelope, because if you've already kind of realized that isn't the right role for you long term and you are open to a change,
Mhm.
I would say, great, let's, push it and get you, whatever you can make, the maximum amount you can make in this current role, because
Mhm.
that's a great jumping off point. And then just feeling good about that exercise and you demonstrating and creating that confidence in your delivery and in how you go about that.
Mhm.
You're in a
Yeah.
great position to negotiate when you're ready to move on.
It's a good point, yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else want to share? And no worries. All right, I don't see anything in the chat. So I think I'll move on if nobody has more questions. So basically, you know, today is a short one. I think there's so much we could talk about in regards to how you're showing up and in regards to investing in, you know, feeling confident. Marissa and I, you know, are really excited to continue to build on this journey of, you know, establishing your independence. And it really is kind of this intersection of mindset and professional development that we are kind of mapping or investing around. And so with this monthly focus, I think what we're trying to do and the intention is get through and, you know, basically work on these building blocks so that you feel really good in your professional life. You feel really good in your mindset and you can try new things and grow from failure. So we will continue to kind of program and workshop around these areas. You know, we will do more in terms of, you know, going deeper. I think with exercises and one-on-one, when I did work with one of our mentors in the past or mentees in the past, it was basically mapping out, you know, well, how do you construct and, you know, feel more confident and, you know, deliver with ease all these different things you want in your professional life and in your professional environment. So, you know, we can definitely do more tailored conversations and workshopping as well. I think money talks, we want to kind of introduce these different concepts and answer some, you know, live Q&A, but to go deeper, I would say, you know, probably our mentorship sessions and some of our offline events might be, you know, aligned. So that was a really quick one today. You know, I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. I think it would be great to get, you know, more people involved. Oh, looks like we have a comment from Emily. So Emily says, oh, hi. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Okay. Hi. Kind of piggybacking off of Bridget's situation, I'm currently job searching and having trouble kind of maintaining my confidence throughout these experiences of going through salary negotiations where I've been told multiple times that I'm out of budget or, you know, different things, and just kind of maintaining that like level of worth with asking. And kind of like a second question I have as part of that too is, am I allowed to not answer the question of salary requirements and wait until an offer is presented? Like, what's a good way to approach that?
Great questions. First, let me say, I love that people are saying you're asking for a high salary. So first of all, congrats. No, seriously.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's not, but let's be
No, I think it's great. I think if you're never getting pushback and, you know, we say this, you're not asking for enough. And you can learn so much from either failure or no, whereas yes meant you could have gotten more probably, right? Or learned more. So what I will say is, you know, feeling good and feeling confident around your value and your worth, you know, it can take a lifetime to get there, right? And it can be a constant investment. But one exercise I love to do with people around salary negotiation or compensation negotiation is taking the time and going through an exercise of really digging into, you know, well, Emily, what is great about you? What do you bring? You know, what is your value? And being able to articulate it, right? There's a story and there are things that you do that other people don't do. Now, if you have the self-awareness and the proficiency in, you know, communicating that story, that's going to do wonders. You know, a lot of people are just kind of applying to jobs and it's, oh yeah, sales background, or, oh, this looks interesting. So first I'll say, apply to things intentionally. And of course it's a numbers game, but apply and know, why do you want to work there? But more importantly, know, why should they hire you, right? So I think the story can be tailored and tweaked based on maybe the culture or what that business does. But what about you is fundamentally, amazing? And what value are you bringing? I'm going to pause and let you even think on that. And if you want, you can say something to us. You don't have to.
I mean, I think the one thing that's been tough for me to articulate is that what feels special about me on a team, if I'm, allowing myself to be that like egotistical about it, is just I have a good ability to like collaborate, to bring people together. I'm a great meeting facilitator for that reason. Like there's sort of this element that's hard to quantify, but I promise I'm a good team player, and I'm finding a hard time kind of like articulating that as like a real skill.
Yeah. And a few other thoughts there. Have you done, and this is something for really everyone in terms of self-awareness, but I think there's what do you think you're really good at? And then what have other people told you you're good at? Yeah. And that's a great reflection or ability to say, wow, people tell me I'm amazing at sales, even though I think I'm really good at math or logic or whatever. And so you can learn through that journey of what feedback are you getting? And you can ask people that you've worked with, hey, what did you think I was best at? By the way, can you give me a LinkedIn endorsement? Being proactive to build that self-awareness and to grow, and being open to, hey, they gave me negative feedback. How do I grow from that?
Yeah.
But I think it's great that you already have some awareness there around something you like and that you're good at. And then it's going to be, how do you articulate it? And how does it, what roles are you applying to? And how do you basically map it to that company or those roles?
Yeah. Like I kind of want to make a soft skill a hard skill a little bit.
It is a hard skill though. This is the thing. So I wanted to jump in because this is one of my skills, and I've gotten practice in talking about it and bragging about it and getting promotions and things like that when I've had salaried jobs. And I would say, first of all, an interview or a cover letter is your chance to brag. Like everyone else is bragging. So like know that by you not singing your own praises, it actually looks like maybe that's not a skill of yours. That's not something they might assume based on previous roles you've had. And I think those are hugely important. The things that stuck out to me were that you're a good team player, that you have strong facilitation skills. And I would say a way to wrap that in a bow is that I can lead when leadership is needed for the team, and I can also be a part of the team and collaborate really well. So you're a chameleon, and that's a huge asset because it shows them investment in their company, in the organization, in the team, and it also shows the ability in the future maybe for upward mobility. So I think that's a fantastic skill, and I don't think it's just a soft skill.
I love the way you help me frame that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, totally. And I would say I would bring that to the forefront every time you're having a conversation, either a job interview or in the future promotion conversations, because that set of skills is everyone wants that on their team. I cannot think of anywhere I've ever worked where people didn't want somebody who could be on either side of that spectrum and showing that flexibility.
I hadn't really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I think that was such a good ad. And I have to say, Emily, just you sitting with that and truly believing, being confident that these are hard skills and practicing how you articulate it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of, if you don't have your story down, write it. Literally have these bullet points. This is what I want to get across. Practice it. Practice it in the mirror, to a friend. Read it out loud, because it takes many conversations to start feeling like, oh wow, I'm so confident delivering this, whether it's a bio on me or I want to get the raise. You want to practice it. You don't want that to be the first time you're trying to articulate this new story.
Right. I love that. Thank you both so much.
And it looks like we have another comment. I sometimes get stuck applying only to jobs where I have direct experience because I know I have a better chance of getting the job, but then I don't expand my horizons and often end up applying to jobs where the compensation is below my current salary. And I think that's something that a lot of women do. A lot of women are applying where they have and meet literally all the criteria. And, you know, a lot of men are applying where they meet maybe half the criteria.
Yeah.
And again, that speaks to confidence, and it speaks to, are you taking a risk? Are you, you know, willing to accept and grow from failure? And it's not failure if, you know, a company doesn't move forward with you. You know, again, it's partially numbers game, it's partially timing, it's partially luck. So what I think Marissa and I are trying to share a little bit on this call and conversation is, how do we make you confident enough so that you can articulate and feel good about your story and apply to those things where you don't have all the skills? Because if you know, can get across that, hey, I'm, you know, talented and this is what I'm really good at and I'm passionate, I work hard, I like to grow, who's not going to hire you? And I think it's fine to go to another role that's really aligned if there's growth potential, even if you're making less. I've done it, but don't do it because that's what's in your comfort level. Do it because that's a role you really want and you really want to grow in it. But make sure that they want to grow with you, you know? So I don't think that dollars should be the primary factor indicator of, you know, the decision. I think culture matters a lot more as we get older, more mature and more aware. But, you know, listen, I think it's great to apply to things knowing you're a little on edge. You're not going to get that second call or whatever. And by the way, when you do apply, don't just apply on a website. As Marissa had stated, you know, that cover letter, make sure you're braggy, but not too boastful, but basically align yourself with that business. Reach out on LinkedIn, ask for people if you know people that work there, ask for referrals, reach out to people you don't know for a referral if you see they work there and they have an interesting background on LinkedIn. I mean, that stuff really does go a long way. I said a lot, so pause on that.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good advice. I think because partly I feel a little bit not stuck, but I'm doing like a very specified job right now, and it's like super specialized in basically like aerial mapping, remote sensing. And so I feel, and I did learn, I came to this job not knowing that much about it, and I learned about it as I got into it. But I do feel like, oh, okay, well, now that I know this, I'll go into something else, and I kind of forget to step back and be like, okay, well, I learned this from scratch, and I could learn anything from scratch.
So that's a huge skill, the ability to grow and evolve and learn new things. And that's something I would highlight. It's something that I've always been really excited about and something that I know employers love. But I guarantee you, if you take a step back and you do a thought exercise around what actual skills apply in other areas and other industries, you're going to come up with a list as well.
Yeah.
So I would, you know, say definitely spend the time to think about what were those things that are transferable and what are other areas or other industries where you know that you have skills that align. And I still believe strongly, you know, you want to talk about that you can grow and you can learn new things and you love to, but I think it's probably more important to be able to communicate and articulate, what does Bridget bring to the table? You know, what are you great at? And what are you excited about? What are you passionate about? And employers, by the way, can tell if you are coming up and just saying, oh, I like that you do this, versus you truly align and you've really thought about it. And by the way, when it comes to diligence or, you know, doing research on an employer, that's a huge part of the interview process. You know, look around, play around on their website, you know, see what they're doing, really get into that idea of, you know, who's the customer. And that will allow you to have a much deeper conversation and better connect to the business.
Makes sense.
Oh, and then it looks like we have a question from Emily, which she had asked before, and I'm glad you put it in there. Is there a way to avoid answering the salary requirement question? So that is a good question. I would say, I don't like to lead with the salary, but I think it's good to understand, is it ballpark in line? You know, I think it's important in an environment like today where, you know, maybe a business is a little cash strapped. Maybe they have employees that have already, you know, shown and demonstrated that they are working proficiently. You know, they might have already done some type of pay cut on their end because of this environment we're in. I think it's important that you're not demanding, you know, top dollar tomorrow, but also indicating that you have real value and that you're looking for a role where there is opportunity to grow. And as you do demonstrate success, to be compensated for it. I don't love leading with like dollars up front, because the other thing is employees that work out, really successful employees, if it's just about money, employers don't like that. And that's not what keeps you there. The thing that keeps you there, and they love employee retention, it's, again, culture and alignment with their business and you being excited about what they're doing as a business. So if they can, hire you on and they know, wow, Emily, has the potential to grow into this senior figure, and she's a team player, she's also a leader, and maybe she starts at, this one kind of, I don't know, pay level, but we see her growing into more. I mean, that's really exciting. And then being able to invest in that. I wouldn't want to cut it off too early on pay. So I think being able to communicate, ballpark, this is what I'm looking for if they ask you early. But I think the bigger thing is you are looking for a job or an opportunity where you can grow and evolve, and you really want to become, maybe a senior figure there. And if you can demonstrate that, I think they should be very open to paying you more. But again, I don't know if they can maximize your pay tomorrow based on what you want. And you're still on mute in case you did want to say.
Sorry.
No worries.
I feel like maybe that's a good idea to frame it as, well, my goal is to be at this level. My requirements at the time are just that's where I'd like to get, that's where I'd like to end up, maybe. Yeah. Is that like a way to frame it?
Well, there's a lot of ways you can think about compensation and salary. And so dollars are one thing, but you can basically negotiate on anything. And, we've covered some of this prior, but basically you could have a different reporting line, or you could agree that, you want a title that you're basically growing into that they can't pay you for today. I mean, there are things that you can still feel really good about and negotiate on, where it's not about, maybe you want 150,000, but this company can only pay 110. But maybe instead of the, director title, they'll give you a VP title. There are different things that you can think about. Oh, you know what? I don't want to report to this manager. I actually want to report to the VP, but because of this, I'm going to learn more and have better mentorship. And I'm not saying that out of the gate you want to be too demanding, but if you are thoughtful and if you can map out, this is why I'm asking for this, and this is why I'm so excited, for this opportunity with your company, but I want to make sure we're aligned. I mean, they're going to respect you, and they're going to know you're looking for a, bigger career trajectory than some others. And I think they should be amenable to that, or open to that. Excited about that, I should say.
Yeah, I like that, kind of putting yourself in like a future self position to answer that question. That's really helpful, Natalie. Thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, something I didn't talk about, and there's so much we could talk about as it pertains to confidence, the idea of executive presence. Raise a hand. Do you know what that term means? Have you heard it? Okay. Some yes, some no. So it's not just asking, right? How do you show up? What is your body language, right? Like when you're in a room, like, are you holding yourself with confidence? Do you have confidence in your voice and in your delivery? How are you interacting with others? There's basically these things that are sometimes verbal and sometimes nonverbal. And can I put you in front of a table of executives, right? Do you have that level of authority? And these are skills, again, that you can work on and take, years to develop, but it's something to think about, right? I wouldn't wear this sweatshirt if I'm going into a job interview, but guess what? As I got more senior in what I was doing, I no longer felt like I had to wear my Rolex, and I no longer felt like I had to, check the same boxes, because I started having authority in just the way I carried myself, in my dialogue and in my presence. But especially when we're earlier in our careers as women, I think it's really important that we're thinking about these things, because you're not just going to show up one day and feel confident, especially when it's a group of white men, and I hate to make it, and I don't want to make it about like, it's bad, if it's a white man and he has a different journey, but I think it's important to acknowledge this stuff, any type of person who identifies as a woman, you identify as a person of color. I mean, it really is a different journey, and establishing that authority and that confidence in who we are and how we're presenting ourselves. I mean, you really have to take time to unwind some of this, kind of societal, the way that we've been raised and treated, to say, no, I am a professional. and I can be a CEO or I can be an executive. You know, I think it's really important that we're taking the time to start investing in ourselves so that you show up with this executive presence.
I had a question about one of your, like when you were talking about you don't always have to negotiate for the salary right at the start. I feel like I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, the best way to level up or to get a good raise is to quit your job and then negotiate, like start at a higher point at another company, because it can take years to like work your way up. Do you have any like insight on
Sure.
on
Yeah.
the difference between those two?
Well, I guess the comment I was making before about I've multiple times in my career changed roles to do something more fulfilling that was more aligned. I took pay cuts to do it, but I ended up making more money because I was better and more aligned in those roles. Now, as a rule of thumb, if you are looking to make more, that's not something I would typically recommend. But again, I think fulfillment, alignment, showing up, you know, having that authenticity and feeling really good is more important than wealth.
Yeah.
But I think that as it pertains to, and I think you brought up a really good, important point, which was you want to make more because you want to feel better about, you want to invest in your lifestyle. Bridget just bought her first place. Congrats. That's amazing. You have a mortgage now. So you do need to think about, and you can't make money, right? And so I think that for you, what I was recommending is if you know that you're ready to move on and you've kind of evolved and grown in your current role and you're ready for a change, it's a great time to say, let's try to get an even higher salary in your current role, because that is a great thing to introduce when you're going through a salary negotiation with your next employer. You can say, hey, you know, I'm making 110K and not making 90K. Your new employer, like that's going to be a data point where they're like, oh, wow, like that's great. Now, if we're getting strategic around negotiation, I would say in process of firming up and, you know, interviewing at other roles, you can play them off of each other, you know, and you can basically get a counter from your current employer and use that so that your new employer pays more. And that's a strategy I would absolutely employ. But again, you know, there's nothing wrong with asking your employer every year when you're performing for a raise. So you could try those in parallel, right? You could start mapping out kind of the salary negotiation with your current employer, and or be thinking about how to play it off of your new prospective employer.
That just made me think of something, because our goals for this year are due in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
And this is something like last year we've had like a lot of management turnover, but my current manager did my reviews last year, and she said, oh, well, you really need to like highlight how exactly your skills are. Like, how do you kind of sell yourself in that way? Say like, these are the things I did, and this is how it really helps the company.
Yeah.
Is it just, I mean, maybe it's just as easy as it sounds, but
no, I think it's hugely important. I think that I would spend time, and this is what I do, you know, if I do salary negotiation with an individual one-on-one, I mean, it really is mapping out not just those skills of what have you done, but it's mapping out tangible value that you've driven in terms of bottom line. If you have numbers you can share, oh, I ran this marketing campaign and we got 3 million in pipeline, or, you know, we closed 750,000 of new business and I exceeded my target by, you know, 50%. Numbers are amazing. And it's okay if it's qualitative, but again, I would be very clear on what were the biggest successes you brought to the company. And again, articulating those and knowing the numbers, which is different, but also really important alongside, these are my skills and these are what I bring that I'm, you know, passionate about. And I know I'm, you know, basically superior in terms of how I deliver this and how I execute. I think both of those are really important things to be able to articulate. And your employer, you know, they have a lot of employees or they have a lot of things going on. They're not going to dig into, oh, wait, Bridget did this. You need to be your own advocate.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Great questions. So if there's nothing else, I would say thank you so much for joining, you know, today's workshop. We will have more workshopping, again, focused around confidence in the coming weeks. And then next month, the workshopping will be focused around navigating obstacles or growing from failure. So really excited for this. For the paid community members, we will do a mentorship session. So that'll be kind of a few hours if people just want to hang out, ask questions, and we'll do kind of more Q&A on anything. But we also do one-on-one mentorship. So hopefully this was valuable and helpful. And, you know, I really enjoyed connecting with you all.
Thanks, Natalie, and everyone.
Thank you so much, Natalie. This was
Yeah.
an awesome conversation.
This was great. Tell your friends. We want to build the community, but this is really exciting. So thanks for being so interactive.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll talk